I'm 68, and when General Santos's midday heat came through my shoes outside the public market at 12:15, I learned that one simple change to the clock, not more willpower, was the only way to keep the rest of my day intact. Before I tell you what happened next, do me one quick favor, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It honestly helps this little porch-side community stay in touch. At 12:15 p.m., I was standing on glaring concrete near the General Santos City public market. There wasn't a patch of shade between me and the next storefront. Heat rose through the soles of my shoes as if the pavement had been storing it all morning just for me. Sweat ran beneath my shirt. My shopping bag suddenly felt twice as heavy, and the short walk to a tricycle looked much longer than it had 10 minutes earlier. Nothing dramatic happened. My energy simply drained away, fast, right there beside the market traffic. I had expected Philippine warmth. Of course I had. What caught me off guard was how quickly those hottest hours could take an otherwise pleasant day and flatten it. I still had errands to finish, lunch to find, and plans for later. Yet my body was already asking for a chair and a cold drink. If you still picture yourself running errands here on the same clock you used back home, this is the part I want you to feel through your own shoes. The question wasn't whether I could endure the heat. It was what I could do instead. I'm Benett, 68, and I've spent 10 years in the Philippines. That experience taught me plenty, but I didn't arrive knowing how to shape my day around General Santos. During my first few months, I kept forcing errands into midday because that was how I had operated in the United States. I would look at a list, see an open afternoon, and head out. Back home, the clock told me when to work. Here, the shadows told me when to move. It took several sweaty trips before I finally listened. I first tried lighter shirts and thinner socks. They helped a little, but they didn't solve the real problem. More willpower didn't solve it either. The useful answer was changing the clock instead of fighting the climate. I moved 4 hours of activity into cooler portions of the same day. The errands stayed, lunch stayed, my appointments and afternoon plans stayed too. Only their place on the clock changed. You may be wondering whether moving those hours means giving up half the day. It does not, and the afternoon will prove it. My replacement day starts at 6:15 a.m. A tricycle carries me into General Santos while the air still feels soft against my face. Metal storefront shutters begin rolling upward with a clatter. Under wide canvas awnings, vendors set out rows of yellow mangoes and straighten their wooden crates. The streets are already awake, but the shadows still stretch across the road. That matters. I can step out of the tricycle, walk at an easy pace, and think clearly about what I came to do instead of searching for the nearest fan. Inside the General Santos City public market, you hear the morning before you feel the heat. Ice rattles in the fish stall trays. The smell of grilled tuna drifts between the aisles. Then comes Liza, a vegetable seller in a green apron, holding up a firm red tomato from her stall. She gave me advice that was better than anything I could have figured out from an American routine. Come early, Benett, the good tomatoes go before the sun gets high. She was right. Early shopping means better choices, shorter pauses, and a calmer walk through the market. By the time other newcomers might be thinking about their first errand, I'm already moving through the last ones. Food shopping comes first. Then I stop at the pharmacy, handle my banking, and take care of any government paperwork that needs an office counter or a signature. By 9:30, those jobs are finished rather than scattered through the hottest part of the day. I don't rush. That's the nice part. I simply arrive while the streets are manageable and the office lines are beginning to move. One small habit makes that early run much easier. I keep a 1-liter bottle of water beside me where my hand can reach it. It doesn't disappear under receipts or medicine boxes at the bottom of a bag. At a neighborhood shop, that 1-liter bottle of water costs about 25 Philippine pesos, roughly 45 American cents. I take regular sips before I feel thirsty. Then I eat an early lunch while the market smells are still following me, and I gather whatever papers I'll need for the next morning. That last part matters because a smooth morning begins the night before. Relocation brings enough moving pieces, errands, local office requirements, government forms, and retiree filings. The honest truth is that current instructions can vary, so I still confirm important details with the proper Philippine office. 10 years here has taught me that good organization saves more energy than trying to remember everything while standing in the heat. That experience is why I recommend One Way Guide and the One Way Club as practical planning help. The ebook answers questions for viewers moving to Singapore, and optional help is available for organizing government forms and retiree filings. It isn't a General Santos heat guide, and it doesn't replace current advice from local Philippine offices. But if Singapore is your destination, it can stop you from scrambling through scattered advice. The link is in the description. No guide can change the weather, but tonight's planning can change tomorrow's clock. With the shopping put away, the pharmacy stop handled, and the paperwork finished, I can eat without watching another errand creep toward noon. Then I make the final short trip home. The shadows have pulled closer to the buildings now, and the brighter concrete is starting to take over the street. I reach my door before 11 a.m. with my water bottle still beside me and the active part of the morning complete. But the next test is waiting behind that door, a concrete room that holds the heat and 4 midday hours that must be protected without wasting them. Inside, the answer begins before the strongest sun reaches the windows. I draw the curtains while the bright strip on the floor is still narrow. With the curtains drawn, I set the fan so there is air moving through the room, enough to lift the curtain edge and take the stillness out of the concrete walls. Then I put the 1-liter water bottle beside me, right where my hand can find it. If the bottle is buried in a bag, I forget it. If it is beside the chair, I drink before thirst breaks my concentration. That closes the first little problem. The room may hold warmth, but it does not have to sit sealed and motionless around you. I want to be straight with you about the trade-off. The schedule requires planning the night before. I check the next morning's errands, set out what I need, and decide which stops belong before the sun climbs. Concrete rooms can remain warm longer than Americans expect. Drawing fabric across a window does not turn one into an icebox. You may still feel warmth in the chair and along the wall. The fan, the shaded window, and the bottle make that warmth manageable while the street outside takes the full force of the sun. Ask yourself one plain question. Would you rather plan tomorrow tonight or spend tomorrow afternoon recovering from one badly timed errand? From 11 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, the outside jobs stay done. The market bag has been unpacked. The pharmacy stop is behind me. Any banking or paperwork already has its place. I do not stand at the window inventing one more reason to cross General Santos at noon. Those 4 hours have a border around them. Once I am inside, I stop treating them as a contest with the climate. That single decision matters because every unnecessary trip carries a second cost. You spend energy getting there, then more energy trying to feel normal again after you return. Reading comes first sometimes, and it has a very plain purpose. Quiet leisure when the street is brightest. I can sit at the table with a book, hear the fan turn steadily, and let my body settle after the morning's tricycle rides. Retirement should include a little room to read without feeling that you are neglecting something. This is exactly where that room fits. A chapter during the hottest stretch does not need recovery afterward. It leaves me calmer, and the book is still open when I reach for that water bottle. On other days, I answer messages at the same table. That clears small obligations while my shoes are resting by the door. A note about an appointment, a reply to a friend, or a detail connected to tomorrow's errands can all be handled indoors. Each answer removes a loose end from later in the day. I am not passing time and waiting for life to restart. I am taking care of work that would otherwise follow me into the cooler hours when I would much rather be outside near Plaza General Santos. Then there is dinner. Vegetables from the morning market come out on the kitchen counter while they are still fresh. I wash them, cut what needs cutting, and prepare what I can before the afternoon plans begin. The work is simple, but its timing changes the evening. When I come home later, there is no pile of food waiting beside a cutting board. Dinner is already halfway handled because the hottest part of the day has quietly removed a chore from the coolest part. And yes, sometimes the useful thing is rest. I sit back or close my eyes for a while with the fan pushing air past the chair. I no longer see a short rest as something I have to defend. It preserves the energy I want for a walk, a meal at a carinderia, or time with a friend once General Santos softens. Rest has a job here. It keeps an early market run from becoming the only outing my body wants that day. By then, I can see useful work sitting right there on the table and kitchen counter. Does this look like losing 4 hours to you? Or like putting 4 useful hours where the heat cannot take the rest of your day? That is the part I missed during my first months here. I thought usefulness had to look like movement through town. Experience taught me that good timing can do more than stubborn effort. Staying indoors at midday does not surrender an afternoon. It protects the hours that follow. That difference sounds small until you feel it in your own body. Push through the overhead sun, and even a pleasant plan later can feel like another task. Protect that middle block, and the second half of the day still has some lift in it. The appointment, the walk, and the shared meal remain available. Nothing has been canceled. I have simply changed the clock instead of fighting the climate. The first signal does not come from an alarm. It appears on the street. Around midday, the light falls hard from above, leaving almost nowhere for shade to stretch. Later, the lines begin to change. A roof edge throws a longer shape across the concrete. The side of a parked tricycle loses that flat white glare. General Santos starts to look open again, as if the streets have made room for people instead of only sunlight. I can see that change from inside, and I trust it more than the old habits I brought from America. Near the end of the protected block, I put the book away, wash the kitchen knife, and check that the messages are finished. The water bottle is lighter now. The curtain edge still moves with the fan, but the bright line beneath it has shifted across the floor. This is the physical clock I use. I do not argue with it or test my toughness. A shadow tells me the hardest stretch has passed. Now watch what changes when the shadows, rather than your old habits, tell you it is time to leave. At 3:30 in the afternoon, I pick up my keys from the table. The room has done its job, so have I. I open the door, step into the longer shade, and walk toward the first tricycle of the second half of my day. The metal frame is waiting by the road. The driver nods. I place one hand on the side, lift myself in, and sit down on the seat. This is the concrete test of the whole routine. If changing the clock really protected my afternoon, I will feel the answer right here before the tricycle even pulls away. The answer comes before the tricycle has even cleared the curb. At 3:30, the roof above me blocks the sun instead of trapping its full force, and the moving air brushes my forearms. The driver pulls into traffic, the engine rattles, and I can look down the road without squinting into that hard overhead glare. The difference shows up when I step out. My shirt is still dry across the back, my legs feel ready to walk. The pavement is warm, certainly, but I no longer feel heat rising through my shoes as if the ground itself were pushing me back indoors. I arrive as myself, not as a man who needs 20 minutes and a cold chair before he can speak. Picture your own afternoon now. You are arriving with energy left instead of wondering where the day went. That is the real test of this routine. A cooler ride is pleasant, but having enough strength and good humor left for the people waiting at the other end is what gives the afternoon back. Some days I meet a friend outside a neighborhood storefront. I am there to listen, laugh, and enjoy the visit, rather than quietly counting the minutes until I can get near a fan. We can stand at the counter for a moment, then carry on down the block while the storefront shadows stretch farther across the road. On another afternoon, I walk near Plaza General Santos. The light sits lower by then. Trees and buildings break it into patches, so I can choose the shaded side instead of crossing an open square under a white sky. I notice faces, traffic, and the pace of the city. At noon, all I noticed was my own sweat. If one small purchase remains, I collect it on the way. A hand passes the item across a shop counter, I tuck it into my bag, and the errand takes a few easy minutes. There is no scramble. The important stops were handled early, so this last one feels like a loose end being tied, not a whole day running late. Or I sit down at a General Santos carinderia and let somebody set a hot plate in front of me. I can smell the grilled fish, hear forks against plates, and actually enjoy the meal. That matters. Food tastes a whole lot better when you have not spent the walk there feeling roasted from the ankles up. Moving those hours did not erase the friend, the walk, the purchase, or the meal. It made room for them. That was the piece I missed during my first months here. I thought a changed schedule would shrink my freedom. In practice, the old schedule was the thing using up my afternoon before it had properly started. By the time I go out again, the shopping bags have been emptied and the appointments are behind me. Any dinner preparation I could handle indoors is already underway. The cutting board may be ready on the counter and the messages that needed an answer have been sent. The day is not waiting for me with a list. It is waiting with open hours. That is closer to the retirement most of us pictured back in the States. You take care of what must be done, but you still have something left for a walk, a conversation, and a meal you do not rush. Retirement should not feel like proving you can overpower a hot sidewalk. And there is a nice change in your head too. Because the bank, pharmacy, market, and paperwork were settled in the morning, you are not carrying them around as little worries. You can say yes when a friend suggests meeting. You can take the longer route near the plaza because your feet and patience are still with you. This is also a more respectful way to live in General Santos. The city already has its rhythm. Doors open early, midday slows down, activity gathers again as the sun drops. Once I stopped demanding that the place follow the clock I brought from America, ordinary errands became smoother. I was adapting to the day in front of me, which is part of being a guest here. It does ask one thing from you. Decide the night before what truly needs doing. Put the market, pharmacy, appointment, and paperwork in an order that makes sense. Set out what you need by the door. If 2 stops sit near each other, handle them in one pass. That small bit of evening planning buys a calm morning and leaves midday clear. Of course, a fixed appointment may sometimes land at an awkward hour. I do not pretend a clock obeys us every day, but most grocery runs, banking stops, and casual plans are hours to place. Move the pieces you can. Then the rare fixed trip is an exception, rather than the pattern that drains you all week. The proof is not a theory written on a calendar. It is the way my body feels when I climb out of that tricycle and keep walking. It is the easy yes to a friend, the unhurried stop at the shop, and the chair at the carinderia that I can enjoy instead of collapsing into. The schedule protects real life. If you want to try this tomorrow, here is the whole routine in one clean line. I plan active errands from 6:15 to 9:30, indoor time from 11 to 3, and outdoor plans again after 3:30. Nothing important disappears. It simply moves. The first block carries the weight, shopping, appointments, and the stops that depend on business hours. The middle block keeps me out of the sharpest sun while I read, answer messages, or get food ready. The final block belongs to movement and company. Each part has a job, so none of the day feels thrown away. After 10 years in the Philippines, this is exactly how I, Benett, handle General Santos's midday heat at 68. I do not try to win a contest against the sun. I use what the changing shadows have taught me. The morning is for getting things done. Midday is for staying comfortable. Late afternoon gives the city back. You do not have to become tougher than the General Santos sun. You only have to choose better hours. That is a far kinder bargain for your knees, your energy, and your mood. It also means you can enjoy the warmth that brought many of us here without turning the hottest stretch into a daily argument. Change the clock instead of fighting the climate. Tonight, write tomorrow's errands on a plain piece of paper and put the earliest stop first. In the morning, leave while the storefronts are opening. Be back indoors before the sun stands high. Let the curtains and moving air do their work, then step outside again when the shadows lengthen. You will still have your shopping, your meals will still fit, the appointment gets handled, and there is room left to sit with somebody over a late plate or take an easy walk near Plaza General Santos. You have not given up the active retirement you came for. You have arranged it around the place where you chose to live. That is the whole answer I wish I had on my first hot market day. At 68, I keep the errands, the food, the appointments, and the social afternoon by moving the hours, not losing them. Try that General Santos schedule tomorrow. When you climb into that later tricycle with energy left, you will know the day is still yours.